me right through. You're holding your secrets for way too long. This can't keep going on. With every lie, they keep on hurting you, getting away with everything they do. This can't keep going on. No, we're gonna find them, and I'm gonna fight for you. They better start hiding. We'll be running with the lions, lions. We'll be running with the lions, lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the lions, lions.
Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. Welcome to another episode of Gloves Off. I'm your host, Dr. Kalpana Sundar, and if you're new to this show, I think you're in for a real treat today. Yeah, I mean, of course I'm going to think that, but I really think you are, because I am going to be interviewing Dr. Janice Fortman, and I was actually on her show a couple of days ago, which was really exciting. So she also has a show on Trajectory TV as well, and it's called Relationship Matters. She is an author, she's a show host, and obviously she's an expert in relationships. And I love talking about relationships. So we're going to dive into that. But before we go any further, for those of you who are new to the show, I would love to see what you think of our content. And the show is really about people who are living their most authentic life, living life on their terms, not according to what society thinks, not according to what anybody else thinks, the way they want. And I feel today's guest is doing just that, as all of my guests do. And then obviously, if you have been watching, thank you for coming back. So interestingly enough, I cannot believe that we are in the last couple of weeks of week and a half or so of March already. Time is just flying by. An interesting thing happened to me. Obviously, my show is called Gloves Off, so you know that I am very heavily into martial arts. And I got some really, really sad news on Friday. The boxing club, the gym that I absolutely love, just because it has everything I could ever want there. I mean, I've got Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, power boxing, yoga. I do personal training lessons. Well, apparently they've been having trouble, which I did not know, and wound up abruptly closing. So, wow, I have to tell you, I did not expect that was going to affect me as much as it did, but it really was very, very sad because it's a great place. I love the people there. I love the coaches there. And yeah, just kind of a sad thing for me. So wanted to share that. But I think they're trying to get somebody to buy it. So, hey, if anybody out there has just a lot of money and really wants to buy an amazing gym, check out the boxing club in California and please buy it so I can go back there. But in any case, other than that, in other news, I'm actually excited because I am hosting my own event, and I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go look for a location for my aesthetic Profit Accelerator Bootcamp. Because as we know, as some of you may know, I actually help aesthetic providers, and Dr. Janice and I were talking about this on her show a couple of days ago. Help them boost their profitability and help them create a business and a life that they love. So because of that, I'm putting together a 2.5-day boot camp, and hopefully in the next couple of months, but I'm going to New Mexico to check out locations. So that's super, super exciting. So before we move any further, I would love to obviously thank our sponsors, Elevated CPA. God, tax season is right around the corner. So if you need an accountant, maybe too late, I'm not sure, but definitely consider one for next year if you don't have one. Thank you, Elevated CPAs, for sponsoring the show every week. And then, obviously, we also have Business Done Better, who also sponsors the show. And again, one of the great things that they're doing is they're actually providing strategic services for your business. So there are a lot of times that we as business owners know what we would like to have done, but we don't understand the steps on how to get there. So that's where they're really, really helpful, because it's really not that easy when it's when you have different. Well, I have multiple businesses, so sometimes just the flow, how to automate things, how to get things to happen in a way that they're hands free for me has been a really big challenge. So if you're in that position, definitely check out Business Done Better. That's their website on the bottom there, so they can help you with all of your business needs. So, well, I'm excited because I cannot wait to talk to Dr. Jan and hear all her expert advice on relationships. As I said, I love hearing about relationships and whatnot. So, without further ado, let's get her on here. Hello and welcome to Gloves Off. How are you doing today?
I am doing just great. Hi, and how are you? And thank you so much for having me on this
Oh,
evening.
I am so excited to have you on. I just realized, let me get rid of that caption there. I kept it on longer than I intended to. Well, I am so excited. I so enjoyed being on your show on Thursday, and it was just such a fun conversation. So, for those of you who are watching, Dr. Jan's show is on Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I don't know what time that is Central. Is it
7 p.m.
7? Yes, I always get a little mixed up. So definitely check it out if you haven't had a chance. So the first question I have for you is, when and how did you become so interested in relationships? What was there a turning point? Was there something that led you to this?
Are you ready for a story?
Oh, of course. That's what we do here. We talk about stories.
Okay, all righty. Well, it started really with the relationship with my mom.
Mm.
Yes. So as we both got older, it seemed that our relationship was deteriorating. And I couldn't understand why we would argue a lot. I could say green and she would say, no, it's blue. And it was just going on and on and on. And I couldn't understand what the heck was happening. And I would complain, to my girlfriends and all, like, I don't know. And I just thought it was just me. So one day I asked my mother, I said, Mom, why is it that we argue all the time? Why is it that you misunderstand the things that I say? And she looked at me and she said, Janice, and she put her hands on her hip. Now I'm 5'9", she's like 5'4". She looked up at me and she said, you know what? It's the way you look at me. It's the words you use. It's your tone of voice. It's your body language. And I started thinking, what? What are you talking about? And then I started thinking, I wonder, is this what's happening in my professional life? And so what happened, I was in a meeting and we were doing brainstorming. And I got up and I came up with this brilliant idea. I was working for Chicago Public Schools, and we had to find a program that was going to help kids read better, their reading comprehension. And I said what I had to say, and around the table it just went, hmm. And maybe 10 minutes later, someone else said the same idea differently. And it was, oh my God, this is wonderful. This is what we're going to implement. And I thought, wait a minute, I just said that. And I couldn't understand what was happening. But I found that it was all in the way I was communicating. In other words, the words I was using, my tone of voice, my body language, all of that. And my best friend said to me, "Well, you know, you come across as arrogant." What? And that was, and she said, "But I'm your friend anyway." and so, and so I started thinking about relationships and communication. And after doing a lot of different research and just talking to different people, I found out that the way I was communicating was affecting my personal and my professional relationships. So that's when I started. First of all, I wanted to improve the relationship I had with my mom. And from there, just, changing the way I related to people in my professional life. I went from that to, you know what? I started just watching different people. And I thought a lot of people have problems in their relationships, and it's because of the way they communicate. That's how I got into it.
That is such a great story. First of all, I love this on so many levels because, first of all, your mother really just told you like it was, didn't she?
Mhm.
She
Yes.
put you, she just put you straight. And then
Yes.
you had confirmation from your best friend that
Yes.
that's the same exact thing, and also at work. So you had three confirmations. There's some
Yes.
power in number three, right? So there was a real sign there that there was something to do about this. And I really have to say that I think a lot of people would have gotten defensive. They would have shut down. They would have, maybe tried to exert their opinion that they're right. But I love that you took a real introspective look and decided to make an effective change and also see how it can help other people create that same effective change.
Yes, definitely. Because once I started observing, once I knew my issue and I started observing other people, I could see that. And I thought, I just feel that I could give people some techniques, some solutions, especially people who I could see were having difficulties in their relationships.
Hmm.
So rather than being defensive about it, of course, I wanted to improve the relationship with my mom.
Hmm.
And of course, I didn't want my friend to still think I was arrogant. And you know what? After I really took stock of me, so to speak, and tried to change the way that I related to other people, my professional life even got better.
Mm. Well, I find that interesting. So I have to ask you this, and did you feel you were arrogant, or were you just perceived as arrogant?
I was perceived as arrogant. I, you
That's
know,
interesting. That is
I'll
really,
say right now, I don't have an arrogant bone in my body.
and that is just so interesting that you are portraying something that you weren't actually at all. So
Right.
that's interesting. So I have to say, from my past, I was actually arrogant. So I was
Oh,
being perceived as arrogant. It's a surgeon thing. You get to a certain level in your life, you're a surgeon, it just comes with the territory. I don't know many surgeons that aren't arrogant. And I would say, frankly, I was less arrogant than most. So if it was a comparison of me to other doctors, other surgeons, I wasn't really that way. But then if you compare me to general population of other people, I would have still been perceived as arrogant. And I think the challenge for me was just how to be perceived as competent without being arrogant. And that took a lot of personal development. And really, it's really, to me, I just feel that's just about confidence. Just really owning who you are in a very, well, I like to say unapologetic because that's what I like to be, is unapologetically me. But once
Mhm.
I got to that point, I felt that I was able to communicate confidence without the arrogance. I don't know. That's just from my own personal journey.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like you said, uh, you took stock of who you were, and you didn't really want to be perceived as arrogant.
Correct.
And that's the thing with relationships, and I know that I'm assuming that affected your relationships, your probably your professional and your personal relationships,
100%.
and it was the way
100%.
it was the way you were communicating.
Yes. I
Yeah.
had my children told me I had a very militant way of communicating. That's what they told me. I mean, it's always rough when you hear these things from people you love, right? And just like you had heard it from your mother and your best friend. That's what my children told me. Of course, they're adults now. So my oldest had said this to me. I mean, and he said it in a very nice way. He was really illustrating how much it's changed, that I'm not like that.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know anything else because, this kind of field I was in, you have to be a certain way and everything has to go a certain way or somebody could die. So it's really serious. But unfortunately, I just led other aspects of my life in the same way when those things didn't have to be serious. So yeah, it's really hard to hear those things. So I commend you for looking internally and doing the work to really fill your life with better relationships. So you obviously fixed the relationship with your mother. And
Yes.
how did your professional life improve as a result of this?
Well, it improved in that I was an administrator
Hmm.
and a facilitator. And it improved because now when I would, well, then rather, when I would go into different schools and have to, I would say, what can I say? I'm trying to be politically correct.
Oh, no, you
uh,
don't have to be. This
you
is
know,
gloves
when I would go into the schools and have to tell the principals and the teachers what to do,
up.
what to do. I it helped me in that they perceived me better. They received the information
Mm,
better from me rather than me coming in and looking at me like, oh well, who does she think she is? She's so arrogant and she's very aggressive with the way that she's speaking. And it changed in that they would receive what I was, trying to give them, and they would cooperate. And
mm.
so it did change in that particular with the Chicago Public Schools in what I was doing. And I also saw that even when I started just speaking internationally about relationships, it would seem to me that they could receive what I was saying just so differently. Because, you're a speaker too. If you are standing in front of an audience and you're looking out and you see the looks on their faces where they're just not receiving what you're saying, it's a total difference when you know how to communicate and relate to them on a professional level, but not in a I know it all, arrogant, aggressive way.
I so agree with you. Nothing is worse than watching someone speak and convey that in an arrogant way because number one, it doesn't really feel like it's about you at all. It just
Right.
feels like it's about them. And I
Mhm.
feel that is very hard to receive once you're in that situation. And I've seen many people speak in that way, and that it's not appealing really to anyone. And I would say that the best speakers are the ones that understand that up front, that it's not even about you. It's about maybe your experiences that you tend to share, as I tend to share mine on stage, because those are the
Mhm.
things that shaped me, that I learned from, that shaped the
Mhm.
messages that I want to convey. But I don't do it in a way, at least I don't think I do. I've never been given that feedback that I do it in an arrogant way, thank goodness. But
Mhm.
it's really just I want to convey the story to help people not, to not have to go through maybe some of the things I did because I didn't know or
Right.
understand the lessons that I've learned now. It's really the overarching message. And it makes a huge difference.
It really, really does. And it's amazing to me when I have my clients to say, "Oh, I didn't know that that's the way I come across."
Mhm. Well, and I
And
think
I,
it's important. And I think it's important to have people who would be honest with us in our lives. Just think about if you didn't have your mother or your best friend be honest with you, you never would have known. So thank goodness for that. And
yeah, definitely. And if my best friend was also a teacher in the
Mm,
Chicago Public Schools. So she was, a personal friend and a
mhm.
professional friend. And to have her to tell me that in that professional setting, and I look back and think, what if she had not said that? I might have thought, well, maybe it's just, with my mom and me.
Mhm.
But the fact that she said that in that professional setting, and when I looked at why the idea that I gave, why it was received differently than that other person, and that's what she told me, and I thought, I didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't. Hmm. Hmm.
Very interesting. So,
Hmm.
what are the tips? If there's some, quick tips that you can share with our audience today about, what you changed to, were there one or two things that you could change immediately that got you better results in your relationships?
The number one thing I would say is listen. We do not listen to each other.
Mm,
You know what? We listen to respond.
mhm.
And when you listen to respond, rather than doing effective listening or active listening, what happens? Misunderstandings. That is the number one tip. And I challenge your audience. When you're having a conversation, are you really actively listening to that person, or are you thinking of something else? Or can you just can't wait to respond? Then you're not listening. So what happens is someone, you can be having this conversation, and the person will say to you, well, that's not what I meant, or that's not what I said. And
Mhm.
here you are thinking, oh, you know what did you mean? What did you say? And it's not because they did not hear it, it's
Mhm.
because they did not listen.
Mhm.
That's the first one. The second one is pay attention to your tone of voice and your body language. Now, if I'm looking at you and I say to you, oh, I am so sorry that happened to you, rather than I'm really sorry that happened to you, how are you going to take the first one? She's not really being authentic.
Mhm.
So those are the main two things, that body language. And I noticed that today. I was at a meeting, and one of the ladies was standing there with her arms crossed like this. What, even though when the speaker said, well, are you interested? Oh, yes, I'm interested. But what did her body language say?
That she's closed off
It
and
was
not.
closed off, that
Yeah.
she's closed off. A speaker that will say to you, I want you all to come right now, buy this from me right now. But what are their hands saying?
Stop.
Right, right. So paying attention, first of all, listening, paying attention to your body language. Those to me are the main two tips that we have to keep in our heads, in our minds, in our hearts when we are having a professional conversation and a personal conversation, and or a personal conversation.
I completely agree. And I have to say, I think that those two things are they're not easy, frankly. They really aren't, especially the first one, because as much as I know that, I have to say there are times where I still feel it's challenging because I'm listening and I want to say something. But I've really been working on not saying anything and waiting till the other person finishes 100%. And then even leaving some time for a pause and
Yes.
then speaking. It's really.
Yes, and making sure it's okay to say, well, this is what I'm understanding,
Mhm.
you know, um, and that way, okay, whatever it is that person was saying, I know what they're saying because because number one, I'm clarifying to them that I am listening. Everybody wants to be listened to.
Exactly. Exactly. One thing I will add, and this was just a recent something that I discovered in my own communications, is if I have some lens where I'm viewing something through, meaning I have some preconceived idea. So I say lens in a preconceived
Yeah.
idea. It's actually interesting to me because I had a massive miscommunication with somebody recently. And I realized that it's because I had framed every action and everything they said in the frame of that preconceived notion.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is why I think life is so interesting. Just as because I've spent a lot of time on personal development and working on communication, all these things. But it just goes to show you, no matter how much or how good you think you've gotten at something, there's always something that still can happen that allows you to relook at yourself and how you communicate and then find another way that you could be better. So when I examine those that conversation or prior conversations through a different lens, I
Mm-hmm.
saw how it was so possible to misconstrue everything that I misconstrued.
Yeah, and you are so right about that. Sometimes, we'll look at a younger person and the preconceived notion is they don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can look at someone who's much, much older and say, oh, that was back then. Things have changed. What they're saying to isn't even relevant now. And and culturally, you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And and I've seen that, and I have to keep my lens open, so to speak. And that just because you are there, um, and let me give you an example. I was at this one school, and it was a new administrator. Well,
Mm-hmm.
right away, it's, oh, they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what they're talking about. They're brand new. They
Right.
don't have the experience. And then, so you're looking at them a certain way. But then as you're having that conversation, as I was having that conversation, it was like, oh, she knows more than I do.
Mm.
So you're right. You can have that. And I think, I hate to say this, but sometimes men have that about women who are
Yes.
leaders.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
It's very
looking at
common.
it, yeah, and through a different lens, that
Yeah.
preconceived notion.
And frankly, one of the big things that I have found very interesting too is just even how those things can shift. So, for example, my older son he's a very old soul and he's a very wise to the point where I can literally get advice from him. And that took some shifting in my own lens to stop viewing him as my son, but just viewing him as an individual who is really beyond his years in a lot of the ways that he thinks. Just because I didn't think that way at 26 doesn't mean that he doesn't. And it's shocking to me. And once we let go of these preconceived notions, I feel that there's more beauty in this relationship that can thrive because it has absolutely, we always had a good relationship, but it's gone to the depths that I never thought was possible because I let go of that I know everything just because I'm the mother. Yeah, and he knows he has different experiences, he has different ideas, and it's frankly, it's shocking to me how good his thought process is and whatnot, and the things he knows that I don't realize. And it really just took me getting over the fact that he's my son and
Oh
changing,
yeah.
cleaning off that lens of he doesn't know
I
as
can
much.
relate. I can relate. Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah,
with my
you have
son,
this,
it's like you have to step back and like, okay, he is an adult.
yeah,
And let me stop looking like he's a child. He's an adult.
right,
And like you say, you have those conversations, it's like, oh my goodness, he's really wise.
yes,
He's really smart. He doesn't need me to. hover.
Right. And I think that can be really detrimental for parent child relationships if you don't change that viewpoint at some point, whenever it's right. I mean, obviously, for me, it was just when I knew they didn't really need me in that motherly sense all the time. I mean, if I need to step in that way, I will, but I haven't needed to in so long. So I really just treat them as adults and we just have more of a friend relationship now. But I've seen parents that continue to baby their children and mother them probably longer than they needed to, and those relationships do deteriorate. And I know this because that happened in my family. My mother and father always treated me like a child. It just got to be old after I've done things that they didn't do, and had experiences they didn't have. Clearly I was running my own life very well, but just to be viewed as a child by your parents, it is detrimental to the relationship.
And I'm glad that this is a great segue because I am an adult daughter aging mother relationship coach.
Oh.
Yes. And I have seen that when I have the mother and the daughter, and the mom cannot let go of her daughter, that she feels still like she has to tell her daughter what to do, and she doesn't accept the daughter as an adult.
Mm.
And I have had several clients where the daughter comes in and tells me, it's like I get advice. I'm not asking for advice, but I get this advice all the time. Or it's like I'm told what to do, and she cannot recognize that I am an adult. She does not have to choose my friends. She,
Oh yeah, there are people that are choosing their kids' friends as adults.
oh my God, and their careers.
Oh goodness.
Oh yeah, oh no, you should do this. You should be this, not that. And you are right. There are issues. And I became an adult daughter aging mother relationship coach really from the journey that I had with my mom.
And I
You
love that because it's very specific. I mean, you could just be a coach, but that is a very specific area of coaching, and really, frankly, a really very needed one. Because I think mothers and daughters, there's a very different dynamic than mothers and sons.
definitely.
Yes. I just am a daughter, but I only have sons. But from what I've seen with my friends who have daughters, it is definitely a different dynamic. And just my relationship with my mother was very complicated.
Yeah.
And she passed about 2 years ago. But the relationship with my father, I've been able to mend much more easily since her passing. And I never could mend the relationship with her.
Mm,
I wish
mm.
I'd known you were around back then. I really do.
It's difficult. It's very complicated. I say it's like a roller coaster. It's love, it's laughter, but then it screams and yells, and it's happiness, and then it's sadness, it's anger. Uh, and it is a very complicated relationship. However, that relationship I see is the most important relationship we have in our lives because it affects everything. It affects our personal life. It affects our professional lives.
Mm.
Um, and when I say professional life, even the careers that we choose,
Mhm.
it could be, I'm not going to do what my mom did, or I'm a teacher because my mother was a teacher. You know, I'm not going to have any children because of the way I was raised, or I'm going to have children. I'm not going to get married, or I am going to get married. It affects so much. And I did a lot of research into it, and I was really surprised of how many adult daughters and their moms have problems navigating the challenges in their relationship. And guess what? It's the way they communicate with each
Oh,
other.
I think that is so true. I have a question for you though. What is we talked earlier just about the dynamic between mother sons being different from mother daughter. What do you have an idea what the difference is? I just know it's different, but I don't really have a clue as to what it is or why.
The saying is we raise our daughters and love our sons.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Well, um, sometimes you hear moms say, their sons, they forgive them. They can do no wrong.
Oh yeah. I have a
And
brother, and that's how it went in my family. He could do no wrong.
and that's how it was in my family.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh my God, my brother couldn't do it, any wrong.
Mhm.
But for some reason, we are harder on our daughters.
Mm.
And I had talked to some doctors one time, and I asked, why isn't there research? Is this biological? You know, what is it? Because even if you have friends that
Mhm.
have sons and daughters, you can see, if you really watch, you can see the difference in the way the moms relate to the daughters and they relate to their sons. I still don't know what that is.
I actually think it might be societal and cultural. I know in my
Yeah.
family, I mean, well,
Okay.
really, if we look at what society demands, because I've done a lot of research on this and I wrote about this in my book,
Mm-hmm.
society has a ridiculous demands on women. And I still see it in my business owners that are women. They are. So a man can be expected to, if he has a career, he's not expected to take care of his aging parents, take care of the children, run the household. He can just focus on his career because usually there's somebody supporting him. When the woman, and I know I was the primary breadwinner in my home,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying my ex husband didn't do anything. I'm just saying that in my mind space was always all the other things. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think society is generally harder on women. And I think that culturally, some cultures are especially hard on women. I know that my culture is, I don't know, I can only speak for what I've endured.
Mm-hmm.
The firstborn, first of all, they don't even want you if you're a daughter. They don't even want you. So that's a great feeling.
Okay. Great.
I was the firstborn. They don't even want you. Like, I wanted a boy. So then
Oh.
when the boy shows up, they're just so thrilled. You don't even matter. So there's a lot of that in several cultures that I know of. So I think that's part of it. So we do tend to be harder on our daughters. I mean, I didn't have any daughters, so I had to raise my sons as well as love them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely something that can be improved in our society and in our cultural awareness.
Yeah, and it's not just our culture,
Hmm.
because I have clients from other cultures, and it seems like it's the same thing. You know,
Mm,
um, the only time I did not see this is I was in Africa, and they call it the motherland. But I was just listening to some historical things, and in some of the villages long time ago, it was the female who was really the head of the household. And but when you look at, like, other cultures, Africa, Asia, it's still the same, as far as the woman is the one who is, I don't want to, I hate to say look down on, but it seems like the woman is the one that bears
hmm.
all of the responsibilities. I'll say that. Like you say, raising the children, when parents are seniors, that's the whole thing. I had an Oriental client, and the mom, and I guess in that culture, at least in her household,
Mhm.
when she couldn't take care of herself anymore, she moved in with her daughter and her son-in-law.
Mhm.
and she still felt that so much was put on her daughter, and so I think that goes way, 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 way back, in history.
I agree. I agree. Well, I just think the work that you're doing is fascinating, and I have to change the subject just briefly for
Okay,
something a little fun, because
okay.
I saw in your that you were crowned Miss Senior Illinois
Yeah.
at the age of 80.
Yeah, that was in yes.
So
I'm
first of
83
all,
now. That was yeah. So
first
yeah,
of
I
all,
was
when I
Miss
read that,
Eleanor. You
I'm
say
sorry.
what?
I was gonna say when I read that, I said, "What? She's 80?" I mean,
That was then. I'm 83 now.
I never, ever, ever would have suspected that. I have to tell you, you, age is a number. Your energy is so youthful and so vibrant. And so when I saw 80, I thought I didn't see that right. I looked at it a few times. So congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
So
It's
how?
hereditary.
That's
It's
amazing.
it's on both sides. My mom lived to be 98,
Wow.
and I think at the age of 95 she was still wearing little heels.
Oh my goodness.
And my dad passed at 89. But on both sides of the family, it's longevity,
Mhm.
and as long as you take care of yourself, you don't have
Yeah.
any, really terrible illnesses or anything. And it's really a frame of mind. It's you know, you just can't just sit around and not move,
Mhm.
and you have to keep learning, and just have a zest. I think a zest for life. You know.
Yes. Well, clearly you do. So what made you do this? What made you even enter the contest?
Well, so a friend of mine said, "You know what? I'm in this contest. What in this and it's a pageant for Miss Senior Illinois America. So why don't you come on and be in it too?" And I thought, "What? Are you crazy?" But guess who won? Me.
So what is the age? Is there a minimum age that you have to
Oh
be?
yeah, you had to be at least 65.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is great. I love it. So this is funny. I love pageants are really they're entertaining and they're really fun in a lot of ways. When I was younger, my sister and my sister did more of the pageants because my parents told me I wasn't cute enough. So
Oh,
so she was the one doing the pageants, and I think I did one, and then I said no way. So it's really interesting because again, these things they frame our mind, but I love that you just did that and then you won. So
yeah,
that's
I won,
amazing.
and it was a lot of fun, but pageantry life is not for me.
Oh yeah, I don't think
That one time that was great. It was a great experience. And, I met a lot of women from all, the states and all. But I thought, oh my God, that this was nice. And
right.
that's it.
Just an experience that you'd like to
It was
have.
an experience.
I would
Yes.
say I'd be with you. I think it would just be an interesting experience to have, but I probably would not want to continue
No,
doing it.
no,
That's what
no.
life is all about, just trying things. And that's the only
Mhm.
way you can know if it's for you or not for you. At least you didn't go with any kind of preconceived notion.
No, it was fun.
Mhm.
It was fun. It was fun. But I met a lot of women who, my goodness, this was their life. That
Wow.
they entered. This is what they do. They enter these pageants, and they were so serious about it. And I thought, oh no, I no.
Mm-mm. No. Yeah. I could see doing it for fun and just to have
Yeah,
an experience, but being
yeah.
serious about it would not really be for me either. It wasn't really, I remember just, and this was, we were teenagers, but I remember it was very competitive and very serious back then. So there
Mhm.
was a part of me that said, oh, great. I don't know that this is really for me anyway. So I
Yeah.
don't.
And when you talk about relationships and you talk about being authentic, no.
Right. I think the only part of that appealed to me was I liked being on stage, but I
Yeah,
didn't
well,
really.
that part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only part that appeals to me. But now I get to be on stage. I get to be on front of the camera doing my show. I get to be on stage speaking. I'd much rather those things. So I think it's funny how in life we like some aspect of something we're doing, but not the others. So it's really
Yeah.
important to look at all the aspects and see what are the ones that appeal to you. Because out of that, the only thing that appealed to me was being on stage. The rest of it did not. Maybe wearing cute dresses. And maybe wearing cute dresses, of course.
Oh
That
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, dressing up, that was really great.
right,
Yeah.
right.
That I loved.
Exactly.
That I loved. Yeah, yeah.
So I
But
could see that.
otherwise, no. Too competitive. No.
I wish we had a picture. I should have asked for this so I could have shown it today. If we had a photo of you that I could have shown, I didn't even think of that till just now. Darn it!
With my
But
gown and my crown.
yes, I would love to. I'd love to have seen that. Darn it! Next time. But no, this is a fascinating conversation. And then, do you feel that there are other relationships that are more strained? I know you specialize specifically in the mother-daughter, but are there any other relationship dynamics that you feel are particularly strained that you've seen?
Sure. You know what? I'll say all of them. But I had a client. Well, there was two, a young man and a young lady,
Hmm.
and they were living together,
Hmm.
but they had only known each other for 3 months
Oh.
and couldn't understand why they were having issues in their relationship. And I wanted to say, you all really just don't need to be living together. But I was coaching them into, learning each other because they didn't really know each other.
Right.
But what I would say in any, especially a personal relationship or a romantic relationship, you really need to have that conversation, a real, authentic conversation, truthful, honest, and see who you are.
Hmm.
Who do you really know that person?
Right.
And yeah, yeah. And that's why there are probably so many divorces. You really don't know that person.
Well, I'd like to add that sometimes we don't really even know ourselves before we get into that
True.
relationship, which was the case for me. I knew the person I was with, but I didn't really know myself. Now
Okay.
so what happened was, I like to just say it was a false version of me that showed up in that relationship.
Okay.
So it was a more people pleasing side of me. And what really happened was, as I look back, that version of me was starting to dissipate the older I got. I got married when I was 24. We were together since I was 21. So, of course, there was a whole different version of me that entered into that relationship. Well, of
Mhm.
course, as the years went by and the decades went by, the 30-year-old version of me was less people pleasing and less less about keeping the peace. By the time the 40-year-old version of me showed up, it was way not happening. I didn't
Yeah.
care about that anymore. And as I approached 50, I think that's when it just became it just wasn't right for me anymore because I
Yeah.
realized that that relationship was chosen on a false version of me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you're right. You need to know yourself.
Yeah. So I think it's twofold, honestly.
Yeah.
I think, I think in this particular couple you're talking about, they probably don't know each other. But I
Yeah.
think that's one caution that I have to say for young people. And that isn't true for all young people. So for example,
Yeah.
my son really knows who he is and is very conscious about his choices because he really knows who he is. But I didn't have a clue who I was. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. And a lot of us women, we are in that mode, people pleasing.
mhm.
Want to get along, want to have peace, want to make peace,
Right.
want to be passive, so that we can, have peace. And you're right. It will come out later because you cannot be who you are not for a long time.
Right.
Sooner or later, the real you is going to come out.
It is. It
Like
is.
you said,
So
yeah. Even as a young person, you need to really find out who you are.
yes, yes. And not to, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to interject that just because
Yeah.
I just realized in my life, and I really felt like I knew him, but when the false version of you shows up, that relationship honestly kind of really doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
It's kind of how
Yeah,
I
but you're right. You're right.
because the being authentic is the most important thing we can be. And even if it's ugly, and even if it's not, parts of us we don't want to show to other people. I mean, I'm actually at the point where that's what I force myself to do in any relationship,
Hmm.
friendship, um, anything, romantic relationships. I've kind of forced myself to show up in ways that are probably that are the real me, but
Hmm.
probably not the things I would show everybody. But it's better to get that out there because none of
Oh,
us are.
yeah. Yeah. I always say, it's not what I think about you, it's what I think about me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, and we still have a couple of minutes left, but I actually wanted to say what relationship, the other question I had for you was what relationship was the hardest for you to get in, I guess, a right trajectory other than the one that with your mom? Was there another one that you found almost as challenging or?
Not really, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Not really. Because that was, it wasn't easy,
Mm-hmm.
mending that relationship with my mom. And so that was the hardest. And so it made it, once I recognized who I was, and, it was easier for me with my, other relationships.
Mm.
So, yeah, I can't really think of another relationship that was really difficult. Not
Yeah.
even though I've been married 3 times.
Well, that's another little interesting fact. Okay, now I have to ask, how long were each of the marriages? Because we've got a few minutes left. I got to find out.
3 years. 3
Okay.
years for each one, actually.
Oh, wow. Well, look at that.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are a lot of threes in your life, right?
Yeah, is that something? But the 3rd time is the charm.
Yes. Yes. That's right. The third time is the charm. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, I have to say, I remember when I was on your show last week, or actually earlier this week, I should say, you said you wanted to grow up and be like me. And I thought, oh, I don't think so. I want to grow up and be like you.
Let me say this. You know why I said that? Because I've always wanted to be a race car driver.
Oh,
I
okay.
used to drive so fast.
Oh,
And I used to watch
cool.
honestly, and I
Listen.
thought, how would it feel?
Well, listen, I think that it's never too late. You can always do those driving experiences. You don't have to be by yourself in the race car doing crazy things, but they have all those Porsche experiences and things all over the country. And you can always just do one of those and just do it. You should definitely
And
do
wait
it.
a minute, when your background, I saw that little motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I also wanted to be a motorcycle babe, but guess what? When I was taking lessons, they told me I was a danger to myself and others,
Oh, that's
and
hilarious.
they wouldn't give me a license.
That's
And I had
hilarious.
the jacket, I had everything.
Oh, I know. That's my next thing. I want to learn how to ride a motorcycle. That's on my next agenda. I haven't done it yet, but it
Well,
is
you
on
gotta
the
let
agenda.
me know.
I will definitely let you know. Oh my goodness. Well, we're running out of time, but it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm so grateful for your energy and the words of wisdom that you imparted on me and the audience today. And really, I thought the big take home was just really having more clarity on what makes that mother daughter relationship so complicated. I think a lot of us know that it can be, but don't really understand the dynamics of why. So thank you so much for clarifying that for us.
And thank you so much for having me on the show this evening. It's been a lot of fun. I really have enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, you have a great evening. And for the guests out there who are the audience out there watching, I have Dr. Janice's show on there. So check it out. And I hope you enjoyed the episode today. And thank you, Dr. Janice. And I look forward to maybe having you on the show again sometime soon.
Well, I hope so. You have a beautiful rest of your evening.
You as well. Good night.
Good night.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really enjoyed interviewing her, and I really enjoyed being on her show. So, for any of you who are out there, check out her TV show because I think there's going to be lots of valuable information you can find out on relationship. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Kyle Houston. He was actually in Silicon Valley and then wound up actually cooking crystal meth. So it's a very interesting story. So you're not going to want to miss that one. So anyway, you guys have a fabulous evening, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Gloves Off.